And so back to 121 Canebrake.
Okay.
You said you identified a Ring camera.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I met with the homeowner there. I believe his name is Chris, and he had multiple activations of his Ring doorbell camera. And standing there with him, we went through that, and there was multiple vehicles that went by and set off his activations. Well, in the process of doing this, we realized at 9:15 there was a car that passed. And when that car passed, you could see the front porch of 122. There was what appears to be a male stepping into the front door. And then it goes away because it's a short clip, motion activated, and there was no more motion from the road because the car had passed. We continued to backtrack, and we were able to see that at 8:07 that morning, Ms. Parcell's vehicle is leaving. And there's multiple other activations throughout this time frame.
All right. And you've reviewed the Ring camera at 121.
Yes, I did.
All right. I'm going to play for you State's Exhibit 14.
Okay.
All right, can you describe, you can play it again, describe this to this jury what you're seeing in the background there and what caused the Ring camera to...
All right, so the white SUV that passed by activates the camera, and while watching this video, you see 2 points of motion. You see the vehicle first, and then in the background, you'll see the suspect, possible suspect, stepping into the front door. Looks like a gray sweatshirt, a backpack, and dark in color pants.
Now, have you reviewed stills of this video?
Yes, sir, I have.
I'm going to set this right here.
All right.
You heard Agent, you did not hear, but Agent Sled Agent Hropshire testified about enhancing these photos.
Right.
But about when did y'all obtain this evidence and further to the investigation?
So I had been on scene probably 25 to 35 minutes, and as soon as I obtained this, I asked the homeowner, which is, I believe his name again was Chris, he emailed that to me, to my county phone, and I sent that to Sergeant Kelly with the Technical Services Unit with the Greenville County Sheriff's Office for reason being he could see that a lot better in his office on a large big screen TV. And he could give us more details other than watching this on cell phones on scene.
And would you consider this sort of a break in the case?
At this point, absolutely.
Why is that?
Because other than this, we were unsure of any suspect. This is the first sign of anything that we had was right here at this point.
So I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 16, and I'm going to have you kind of walk us through what we're seeing on these
Okay.
photos. Okay.
All right, so that is a still shot of 122 of the initial Ring camera after the white vehicle had passed. That is the suspect standing on the front stoop, front porch, directly in front of the main entranceway of the home.
All right. And is there a car to the right there?
There is.
Did you determine whose car that was?
That was Ms. Parcell's, yes.
And that's 122 Cambridge. That's Ms. Parcell's house.
Yes.
Okay. And what is that?
That is the same incident location, 122 Canebrake, with the suspect stepping onto the front steps. I believe that will be at the top of the steps onto the front porch. Same incident location.
Sorry, I'm not seeing the exhibit. That was exhibit 18. Exhibit 19.
Will be directly after stepping onto the front porch.
Exhibit 20.
Be at the front door.
Exhibit 21.
Opening the front door.
And exhibit 22.
He's stepping inside the residence.
And I know we just reviewed the video. On the video, can you see the individual going inside?
Briefly, yes, right before it cuts off.
So, as part of your investigation and canvassing, are you also trying to establish a timeline as well?
Yes, sir.
And when reviewing the videos or the ring camera from across the street of Christina Parcell's house, did you discover any other times on there that were important to your investigation?
Yes. At that time, that was 9:15 when he had stepped in. So, backing up to a few other of the notifications that Mr. Chris had located, at 9:27, I'm misspeaking here. That 9:27 is for 133. We'll get to that in a minute. At 9:15, he is stepping in the house. She arrives at the home at 9:12. So just a few minutes prior, her vehicle is turning into the driveway.
Would it surprise you if it was about 9:07?
No, that would be
Let's look at the video.
Okay.
All right. And so,
I mean, my time's off, but it's right there.
So then I logged into my South Carolina DMV online account, and I obtained a picture of Mr. Hughes' driver's license, his DMV photo. I showed that photo to Mr. Manigault just to confirm that I was looking at the same Zachary Hughes that he was referring to.
Was it confirmed?
Yes, sir.
So, once you've confirmed the person that you're looking into, what do you do next?
Well, I continued to look at his DMV online account, and one thing that I found was important is the address on his driver's license was 200 Tyndall Avenue. 200 Tyndall Avenue is located within the city limits of Greenville. A few months prior to Ms. Parcell's murder, the Greenville Police Department had installed traffic cameras around the city. So since he lived in the city, I believed if he had a vehicle, there would be some photos on these traffic cameras of his vehicle. So also using my South Carolina DMV online account, I found that he had a gold 1999 Ford Ranger registered to his name. So the city uses a traffic camera system, some people call them license plate readers, LPRs for short, called flock. When you pass a flock camera, it takes a picture of your license plate in the back right side of your vehicle, and then it goes into a database that's searchable. So once I had Mr. Hughes' license plate from the DMV, I entered it into the flock system. At that time, flock had a retention period of 90 days, and I found 55 images of Mr. Hughes' vehicle.
Now, explain this, Jerry. So, how many flock cameras are there around Greenville County?
At that time, they were just in the city. I would say maybe 10 to 15.
Okay, so we only had 10 to 15 cameras in the city limits.
Yes, the county had not yet employed any flock cameras.
And now you say you have access to this flock camera system. Is this a nationwide system or a local system?
Yes, so Flock is a national company. They sell these traffic cameras to law enforcement agencies across the country.
All right, so after you searched a car registered to Zach Hughes, what'd you find?
So I found the 55 images of his vehicle during that 90-day retention period. I found 2 images the day of Ms. Parcell's murder.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 114 and 115. I'm going to ask you if you recognize those.
Yes, sir. These are the flock pictures of Mr. Hughes' vehicle on October 13th, 21.
Your Honor, State moves Exhibits 114 and 115 into evidence.
No objection. 114 and 115.
Yes, sir. All right, I'm showing you State's Exhibit 114. Can you tell the jury what's in this photo and the time and date?
Yes, sir. This is a photo of Mr. Hughes's 1999 Ford Ranger. It was captured at 2:31 p.m. on October 13th at the Bunkman-Rutherford intersection. And then you can see a black bicycle in the bed of his truck.
So that was at 2:31 in the afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Why was this significant?
Because we have the video of a suspect leaving the crime scene on a black bike.
I'm going to show you what's State's Exhibit 102. Was this what you were trying to compare it to? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And what was your conclusions?
My conclusion is that there's a lot of similarities between the bike in the photo you were holding up and the bike in the bed of Mr. Hughes' truck.
Then I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 115. What is that?
That is another flock camera of Mr. Hughes' vehicle at night. Lawrence in East Washington, 7:30 on the same day.
But you can't really see anything.
No, sir.
So as a result of that, what did you do?
So after learning this information, I acquired search warrants for 200 Tyndall Avenue, Mr. Hughes' truck, his DNA, and his cell phone.
Now, did you, after talking with Mr. Manigault and your independent research, did you learn where John Mello lived or had a house at the time?
Yes, sir.
And where is that?
So he has a house here in Greenville in 12 Blake Street.
And did you also look into the location of Mr. Mello at this particular time?
Yes, sir.
And were you able to confirm where he wasn't?
Yes. We obviously had to consider him as a potential suspect. We were told at the beginning he was potentially in Italy, so we had to confirm that.
And were you able to confirm that?
Yes, sir.
So you went and got a search warrant for 200 Tyndall.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did y'all go out to 200 Tyndall?
Yes, sir, we did.
And did you execute a search warrant on that house?
Yes, sir, we did.
All right. Tell this jury how that occurred.
So we started by meeting at a predetermined location a few miles from the address, and we had a deputy in a unmarked vehicle drive by the house to make sure Mr. Hughes was going to be there. Mr. Hughes was actually leaving the driveway at that time, so we waited at our predetermined location until he returned. Once he returned, we went to the house to execute the search warrant.
Okay. And did you learn who, now, did the defendant own this house?
No, sir.
Did you discover or learn who the owners of this house were?
Yes, sir.
And who was that?
Jeanette and Marshall Lynn.
So how many individuals arrived on which day was this?
This would have been October 22nd.
Okay. So October 22nd.
Yes, sir.
So about 9 days after the murder.
Yes, sir.
So tell us what happened when y'all arrived.
So when we arrived, we sent deputies to the front of the house and then to the back of the house. Their driveway is located behind the house. You have to go down a side street to get to it. And I was one of the deputies that went to the back of the house. I parked directly behind Mr. Hughes's Ford Ranger. When we exited our vehicles, he was standing inside the house right in front of a double French door. When I first observed him, he already had his hands up. So.
And did he have a cell phone?
Yes, sir, he did.
Where was the cell phone?
It was in his hand.
Okay. And did you approach him, or did he come out?
No, we called him out to us. Yes, sir.
And what did he do when you called him out?
He complied.
Okay. And what did he do with the cell phone?
He put it down on the table he was standing beside, just almost directly inside the French doors.
Did you secure that cell phone?
Yes, sir.
How did you do that?
It was collected by another deputy and then transported to be downloaded.
And where did they take that cell phone from?
The kitchen table. Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 112. So you recognize this?
Yes, sir. This is the cell phone that we collected that belonged to Mr. Hughes.
Your Honor, State moves Exhibit 112 into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
X 112 comes to there.
So, I'm going to show you State's Exhibits 116, 117, and 118. Ask if you recognize this.
Yes, sir. These are photos of 200 Tyndall Avenue.
Your Honor, State moves 116, 117, 118 into evidence.
No objection.
116, 117, and 118 United States.
So, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 117. What is that?
That is the front door if you're on Tyndall Avenue and you're facing the front of their house.
And was that where Zach Hughes was standing?
No, sir.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 116. What about that?
That is the back side of their residence that leads to the area where we were parked.
And where was Mr. Hughes standing when you?
You can kind of see the French doors through the bushes there, but he was standing there. Yes, sir.
All right. So did y'all effectuate the search warrant?
Yes, sir.
And did you? So what at this point? What is important to your investigation?
So at this point, we knew Miss Parcell was killed with a sharp force object, so we're looking for any type of knife, screwdriver, anything of those means, clothing, book bag, a bicycle, things like that.
And did y'all search the house looking for those items?
Yes, sir, we did.
What about who was there or who was living there during the time of the murder?
Mr. Hughes was living at the residence. I assume the Winds.
Were they there on October 13th?
No.
How do you know that?
When we were able to access Mr. Hughes' cell phone, he was receiving pictures from the Winds while they were in Europe.
And did you talk to the Winds when y'all were executing the search warrant?
Investigator Sparkman and I did, yes.
Were they compliant?
Yes, sir.
In terms of looking for a bike, did y'all locate one?
Yes, sir, we did.
I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibits 119 through 125. I'm going to ask you to look at State's Exhibits 119 through 125 and ask you if you recognize those.
Yes, sir, I recognize these photos.
And I apologize. I'm going to have to backtrack 2 seconds. I forgot one of my exhibits. But I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit. I need a number. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 132. Do you recognize this?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
So that is a photo of Mr. Hughes' vehicle with the bike in the bed of the truck on the day of Ms. Parcell's murder. And then that is just a Google image of the Buncombe and Rutherford area where the camera is placed.
Okay. State moves 132 into evidence.
No objection.
32 comes into evidence.
All right. Now back to 210. Did y'all focus on the garage at some point?
Yes, sir, we did.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 119. Is that the garage?
Yes, sir.
You know, I don't know, are these in evidence? I'm not sure.
I think
Oh.
He was getting ready to.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked.
The other thing.
All right.
It's 119 through 125.
119 through 125.
Defense position.
No objection.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. We like a clean record.
I understand. Thank you. A lot of exhibits, it gets confusing.
Ton.
All right, I'll show you State's Exhibit 119. And you said that's the garage?
Yes, sir.
Did y'all enter inside the garage?
Yes, sir, we did.
All right. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 120. And what'd you find inside?
We found several bicycles inside the garage.
Okay. Were some bikes, well, explain the different bikes that you found inside.
So there's some bikes, as you can see to the upper left of this vehicle that's, mounted on the wall. Several on the ground as well near that vehicle that were just dirty, dusty, look like they've just been sitting in a garage for a long period of time and are not used regularly. And then to the right of that vehicle, you can see there's a bike sitting upside down on its handlebars and seat. That's a black bike that was very similar to the other two images we had. And it was pristine condition, perfectly clean.
All right, so I'm going to show you State's Exhibits 121. What are the bikes on the left there, or in this little?
Those are just some of the other bikes, the dirtier bikes that we found in their garage.
Did those bikes look like they had been ridden?
No, sir. Some of them had cobwebs on them.
All right, and I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 123.
Yes, sir. That is the black bike that I mentioned earlier that was sitting upside down and was just very, very clean.
When you say very, very clean, what do you mean?
So compared to everything else in this garage, it's just a dirty, dusty garage. Things sit there and collect dust and dirt. And this bike looked like it just rolled off the showroom floor.
I'll show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 133. You recognize this?
Yes, sir, I do.
What is this?
This is the bike that was seized from the garage at 200 Tyndall.
State moves 133 into evidence. No objection.
Without objection, 133 comes in.
Now, did you do any comparison with this bike and the other photos?
Yes, sir.
And what did you conclude?
There's a lot of similarities, such as the frame of the bike, the shape of the handlebars, the placement of the brakes.
And you compared it to the photos from the Ring cameras?
Yes, sir.
And on Zach Hughes' phone, we've heard some testimony to it. Were you able to locate WhatsApp messages?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall sort of the difficulty in those WhatsApp messages that you had in your investigation?
Yes, sir.
Tell this jury about that.
So those WhatsApp messages, when they were recovered from Zach Hughes' cell phone, when we got them, they were in a scrambled state. The words weren't in order how they should be. It made no sense. And the reason for that is when a WhatsApp is deleted from a device and then recovered using what they use to do the forensic download of the phone, when they're recovered, they're in a scrambled state.
And now in WhatsApp, if we communicate with each other on my phone to your phone in WhatsApp, is there any way to get that information from the WhatsApp corporate office?
No, WhatsApp is encrypted end to end. We'll send a search warrant to WhatsApp, and there's nothing they can give us as far as the meat and potatoes of these conversations. What they'll give us is the account information of each number, of each WhatsApp number, and that's basically it.
And did you in fact send a search warrant for WhatsApp?
We did.
And did you get any of these messages from WhatsApp?
No, sir.
Now, did you review all of those WhatsApps?
Yes, sir.
And about how many WhatsApps do you think you reviewed?
It was a lot, hundreds and hundreds.
Was it enough to fill a thick binder?
Yes, sir.
All right, and you went through all of those?
Yes, sir.
And in those WhatsApps, when you're reading the messages, are the words in a coherent order, or do you have to kind of analyze what they are?
I have to analyze what they are.
Okay. And did you analyze what they are in relation to the facts that of this investigation?
Yes, sir.
All right. And were you able to pull relevant WhatsApp messages that you believe to be relevant to this investigation?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to show you what's already been into evidence, State's Exhibit 173. So what is State's Exhibit 173?
This is the first page of the report that was extracted from Zach Hughes' cell phone, and it shows a WhatsApp conversation, and this conversation is between Zach Hughes and John Mello.
And so would this be the first WhatsApp communication between those two individuals
Yes.
that you recovered?
That we recovered, yes, sir.
All right. And what's the date of that?
December 7th of 2020.
Is that October 7th?
I'm sorry, October 7th, 2020.
There you go. Is that better?
Yes.
And so it says instant messages, and up there, what's that number right there?
1,769.
And what does this say right here?
That says scrambled.
And is this date accurate right here? I mean, the time in which it was sent accurate?
Yes, sir.
How do you know that?
I know that when Cellbrite provides the report, they automatically adjust the time to make it correct.
So it's in Eastern Standard
They
Time.
go from, they convert it, I guess is a better way to put it, convert it from UTC to Eastern Standard Time.
All right, and so this first message from Zach, and I'm assuming that's Zach up there.
Yes, this report, it pulled a picture of Zach Hughes, and also when we got the return back from WhatsApp, it did give us that picture as his profile picture. It's his picture. It has his telephone number that ends in 0020. Says Zachary Hughes owner.
And so what is this first message on October 7th, 2020 at 11:40 a.m.?
It says, "It's John Zach."
So when we're talking about scramble, is this an easy sort of example of the scramble?
Yes, sir. I feel confident I could unscramble that.
So what do you think? What would you derive from that as far as your investigation?
Well, knowing that this text is from John Mello, because it has right here his number at whatsapp.net and says John Mello. We know that's his number because that number was in his email signature from the Google emails that we sent. So I know it says Zach. I know it says Zach. It's John.
And you also know that. Do you know that Zach spells his name Z-A-C-K?
I do know that. I know that some documents were located in his room at 200 Tyndall, and that's how his name was spelled on it.
And then this would be a response right there. And so, again, it says, what does this say?
It says scrambled.
All right, and this little dot there?
So that little red, it's an X. I'm not sure if you could see it, but it's an X, and that's on all of these messages from both parties. That means that this was a deleted WhatsApp that was recovered.
And so, who was the response from?
The response is from Zachary Hughes, and I know that because it has Zachary Hughes' phone number, ends in 0020.
And he's in green, is that correct?
Yes, sir. On all of these messages that you will see, the ones on the left in blue are all from John Mello. The ones on the right in green are all from Zachary Hughes.
All right, and so what does this message say?
I'm going to read it as is. It reads, "Is on it other the my man how side."
And
I interpret-
in your interpretation of that, this is your interpretation in relation to your investigation, correct?
Yes, sir. I interpret that as how's it going on the other side, something to that extent. And I believe I know that because I know that at this time, Mr. Mello was on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean in Italy. Mr. Hughes was in the United States.
All right, I'm going to show you some more WhatsApps, and we'll go through them the best we can. I'm going to show you States Exhibit 183. Show you States Exhibit 183. See if you recognize that.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury what that is?
This is a printout of some more WhatsApp messages between John Mello and Zach Hughes from April the 16th of 2021 to April the 17th of 2021.
Your Honor, State moves Exhibit 183 into evidence. Without objection. Without objection. All right, you said the dates are April 16th, 2021. Put us in context of what's going on in this particular case in April of 2021.
If you recall, April of 2021 is when Christina was able to go to Italy and bring Ida back to the United States, to South Carolina.
All right. So there is the first message, and it's in blue. So who's it from?
This is from John Mello.
All right, and what does that message say?
Up in WhatsApp, you was setting sorry.
In relation to this investigation, do you have any significant interpretation of that?
It says WhatsApp in there.
WhatsApp. So you derive. It's talking about WhatsApp.
It's talking about this application.
All right. And then the next one is, what's the date of that one?
The date is 4/17, April 17th, 2021.
At what time?
It's at 6:55 a.m.
And?
This is from John Mello. It says, secret phone number, got I dude, private Christina's.
All right. So how did you interpret that in relation to this investigation?
I interpret that as, dude, I've got Christina's private number.
Okay. And then what looks like 2 minutes later, what's the date on that?
The same date, April 17th, 21 at 6:57 a.m.
All right. And what does that one say?
This is a message from John Mello. It says, harass shit of her 5142, we can the 864 out 483.
So how did you interpret that in relation to this case?
I believe he's providing Christina's phone number, which I know ends in 5142. He's saying, harass the shit out of her.
Back to the top. What is that first message there?
This is a message from John Mello on April 17th of 21 at 8:33 a.m. He sends a JPEG image. You can't tell, you don't know what the image is. It didn't recover the image, only that an image was sent.
All right, so why can't you recover the images?
Because it's encrypted. The fact that it was encrypted and the fact that it was deleted from his phone, the images weren't able to be recovered.
The next one?
The next one's from John Mello, same date at 8:33 a.m. It says, email please to this me photo.
And Zach Hughes' response?
Excellent, haha.
Now you don't know what that photo is.
No, sir.
Do you know when John Mello emailed Zach Hughes photos of Christina Parcell with no clothes on? We've looked at them all morning.
I know it was around this time. I don't recall the exact date, but I know it was around this time.
What about May, middle of May?
Yes, sir.
Sound right? All right. Go back to the top.
This is a message from Zach Hughes to John Mello. The same date at 8:37, just did. He, right after that, says, of her, photo great. Great photo of her is how I see that. John Mello, just shortly after, responds with thanks. And then I-bar got a. I don't have an interpretation for that. This is also on April 17th of 21 at 8:38. Zach Hughes messages, "Let's talk later, next hour's teaching. I'm the 6'4" but. I translate that as, "Let's talk later. I'm teaching." He's busy teaching something, likely piano lessons or some type of musical lessons. He then states shortly after, "You stop thinking, guys. Been about none." And Mr. Mello responds with, "Thanks, okay." And then, "Thank you, brother." This message is from John Mello, April 17th of 21 at 8:39. It states, "Dollar burner phone, buy cheap, a store." I interpret that he's telling him to buy cheap burner phone from a store. He then states, "Haha, something else, no for." And then he states, "Message, ignore that last," shortly after. Then Mr. Mello again states, "Burner pay, get, will, I, a, but."
What do you interpret that as?
It looks like he's saying he'll pay for the burner phone.
What do people use a burner phone for?
A lot of people use, in my training experience, they use burner phones when they don't want, what's on their actual phone to come out. A lot of it's used in a lot of drug deals. It's just a cheap phone that people can get. They're not associated with that number, and they can toss it when they're finished with it.
All right. I'm gonna move on to another date. I'm gonna show you State's Exhibit 184. Two States 184. You recognize that?
Yes, sir.
Are those the WhatsApp messages that we reviewed, we've been discussing?
These are still the WhatsApp messages in this same report from May the 15th of 2021 to May the 20th of 2021.
All right, I'm going to show you the first one here. Who is this? Oh, sorry. State moves 184 to evidence. No objection. 184 comes under.
This is Mr. Mello. He sends another JPEG image to Zachary Hughes. Again, we don't know what the image is. But with that image, he sends a message, and it states, "My Christina, I daughters present mother, JPEG, gentlemen and ladies, Parcell." I interpret that as, "Ladies and gentlemen, I present Christina's mother."
And then, is there a second?
There's a second image. It's another unknown JPEG image.
And what about that one?
At 8:18 p.m., the message states, "Warren Escort, Caroline, AKA Sweet." And that's relevant in this investigation because, as you saw from some of the items that were in these packages that were mailed out, Caroline Warren's name, the name Caroline Warren was on there.
So those were the items that were in the packages.
Yes, sir.
Show you State's Exhibit 185. So you State's 185.
These are more of the WhatsApp messages between John Mello and Zachary Hughes. These are dated from May 23rd, 21 to July the 3rd of 2021.
State moves 185 into evidence. Without objection.
Objection.
And we'll start at the top with the date.
This is from Mr. Mello to Mr. Hughes on May 23rd, 2021 at 2:13 p.m. Just states no. The following message is on the following day, May 24th at 3:42 a.m. It states, Part V is writing its best. A few hours later at 8:15, Mello states, Listen should make that you from today, Greenville, thinking I'm. And then a couple minutes later, he sends a message that says mail.
Why did that grab your attention?
Well, that grabbed my attention because he's talking about mailing things from the Greenville area. And I know that,
Potentially?
right, potentially. And I know that we've got these, I know about these letters that have been sent out. So it piqued my interest. Mello states on the same date at 8:17 a.m. an outside mailbox.
And then does Zach Hughes respond?
Yes, sir. Zach Hughes responds at 8:18 a.m., says, all right. He follows that up with a message, and it reads, I'm riding bike my way that. I interpret that as I'm riding my bike that way. And then right after that, he states, the message says, B want camera on truck. The truck won't be on camera.
And now more from John Mello.
John Mello at 8:19 a.m., still on the 24th of May. This message reads, Charlotte Post, be your day outs info flight mailed from in Wood, same mark, the it's Charlotte. I think you skipped over one. You come down a little bit. Then Mello states, puts Charlotte in you, puts you in Charlotte. Mr. Mello then states at 8:20 a.m., It says, and sunglasses, baseball, wear a hat. He's saying, wear a baseball hat and sunglasses.
Now, did you, in viewing Mr. Hughes' phone, were you able to determine if whether Mr. Hughes visited Mr. Mello?
Yes.
And what about time what date did he visit Mr. Mello?
It was in June, early June of 2021.
And how do you know that?
That is from just conversations that were pulled from messages from his cell phone.
Was there also a video on Zach's phone, Hughes, that you?
Yes,
looked at?
a video was pulled from Zach Hughes' cell phone, and it was a FaceTime. It was a recording of a FaceTime between John Mello and Aida Mello.
And who was doing the recording of the FaceTime?
I believe it was Zach Hughes that was doing the recording from his phone.
And who was he with in the recording?
John Mello and Zach Hughes were together.
And who was John Mello talking to?
John Mello's talking to Aida.
And about what time was that?
That was May 31st, 2021.
And was John Mello in Italy?
John Mello was in Italy. Therefore, Zach was in Italy.
All right. And then finally, they continued this conversation.
Yes, sir. They continue at 8:20 a.m. John Mello's, the message says, a misspelling of phone, lobby your into or Poinsett on go, the hotel upstairs, down sit and play. I believe he's saying go to the Poinsett Hotel and sit down upstairs and play, likely the piano, because that's what his background is in. At 8:21, still on May 24th, John Mello states nice. A minute later, it says, time you post downtown 27, he has even our postman, it made camera 2 gets by office if on stops thee. I know that he's talking about a postman and he's talking about a camera. He then states, from come it anywhere would. I look at that and see it could come from anywhere.
And then what does Zach Hughes say?
At 8:24 a.m., it states, bought gray baseball yesterday, a nondescript cap.
So as far as your investigation is concerned, how did you interpret that?
With these last few messages, they're obviously trying to conceal identity, trying to keep out of view of cameras that may be nearby.
And did Zach Hughes continue to respond?
At 8:24, it states from Zach Hughes, drop just my ride in a box, in an box, it, I'll, and somewhere outside bike.
So what is your interpretation of that?
He's talking about riding his bike somewhere and dropping something in a box outside.
And what does he say?
Then states, good point. Mr. Mello responds at 8:25. This message states, too hard there or find. I interpret that as they are hard to find, likely. Mr. Mello then states, office post throughs drive are at the they. Something about post office.
And these are all for Mr. Mello?
Yes, sir. We're still in blue. Mr. Mello at 8:26. This message says buying the U online or postage. I think he's saying, I think he's asking, are you buying the postage online? Then says, this message states, just that by UA, but B are heavy, will, Shramo, easy letters. And then stamp is the next message. The following message is 8:27 from Mr. Mello. And Staples postage, it can sell, I think, way.
Now, earlier Zach Hughes referred to riding a bike to drop it off.
Yes, sir.
Is that important in this case?
I think it's extremely important. We obviously saw video of our suspect leaving the scene on a bicycle. At 8:41 a.m., Zach Hughes, this message says, of I know one. Then the next message is good thought. John Mello responds with sets you getting R2. It looks like he's asking, are you getting 2 sets?
Zach Hughes says what?
Yes. Zach Hughes, we're at 9:04 a.m. now. This message says, you let know it was much how ow. Cash paying. And then first by IAU, updated thumb drive, go, have, I'll keep 2. John Mello responds with cool, okay.
Thumb drive?
Thumb drive sticks out, paying cash sticks out. Obviously, it's harder to track paying cash if you use a credit card, debit card.
All right, and what's the date of this?
We're May 24th of 21. This is at 9:07 a.m. It's the next message John Mello sends, and it says, to ruin going their weekend. Going to ruin their weekend.
Who do you think there is referring to?
I think there is referring to Miss Parcell and everybody that received those letters.
Zach's response? Zach Hughes' response?
Yes, sir. Same date, 7:17 p.m. This message, it reads, in hold on can I-5 talk. At 8:21 p.m., the message from Zach Hughes states, before Zoom, Stathicus, we if want, and thee can chat. Miller responds at 7:18 a.m. on the 26th at call 9:15. And we are at July the 3rd of 21. This is 1:09. Zach Hughes responds with, headed Marina, friends, I'm with to thee. John Mello responds at 1:09 p.m. on July the 3rd. 1 minute call.
Which is probably...
Call in 1 minute. This is at 1:45 p.m. from Zach to John. It reads, sounds is on post like low funds.
Now, do you see how he spells post?
Yes, sir.
I'm referring to States Exhibit 2. How is post spelled on this envelope on States Exhibit 2?
It's incorrectly spelled P-O-A-S-T.
And what was the other response?
From Zach, it states could from benefit as well, check blank A. Could benefit from a blank check, how I look at it.
All right, I'm gonna move on to October 12th. Some more WhatsApps. Show your state's Exhibit 186. These additional WhatsApps, just like the ones we were reviewing.
Yes, sir.
Start date on those.
Start date on this is October 12th, 2021.
State moves 186 into evidence. No objection.
Objection, 186 comes into evidence.
Starts there. All right, and that is John Mello in blue.
John Mellow's still in blue, and this first message is dated October 12th, 2021 at 8:58 p.m. It reads, her arms who chopped off.
And what do you think it's referring to?
I think it should read, who chopped off her arms. I think he's referring to Christina Parcell.
Photo.
Yes,
Photo of Christina
a photo
Parcell.
of Christina Parcell.
All right, and then this next one.
Same date. No, I'm sorry. This is on October the 13th, 2021 at 10:06 a.m. Burden.
Sorry, is this Mello
This
sending
is
this message?
is from John Mello to Zachary Hughes. Burden if way, but Aida life like family finally beg down case and lawyer love more doomed been a count think than not listening is totally nothing her it matter as I 14 November at wood so leave has me stake you to point let have all even taking our due close stay we she and us right of hate control brother no needs was this can very far your for come say with on thee. I don't know what it says. I know it's talking about a burden. I know that it mentions a lawyer. I know it mentions Aida.
And then what time does Zach respond on October 13th, 2021?
Zach Hughes responds at 11:36 a.m. on October 13th, 2021 with LOL.
And then again.
The next message right after it reads, I know brother.
Going to, what's the date?
We're still on October 13th, 21
At what time?
11:36 a.m.
And that's current time, that's local time, right?
That's local time. Zach Hughes' message states, let's talk in a bit. The following message, still on the 13th at 2:48 p.m. It reads, soon we'll working up later catch in week I'm never mind thee. John Mello responds on October 13th, 21 at 2:49 p.m. And it reads, asleep till fell I was 5-man Saudi Jup.
And then Zach Hughes responds.
at 2:50 p.m. No worries, man. Still on October 13th at 2:50, John Mello sends this message, and it reads, 3 now couldn't information sense thing after another. Thee are single bit I sleep today, our raising, it's here at fees worried. Ain't building 1 weeks or not lawyer. I'm maintenance in cant of OTS about everything eat they'll my a last. And he follows that up a minute later with, and it reads, up be you or woke. Again, me night, GLSD, I'm.
Any significance?
It looks to be like it's talking about nighttime, woke me up, possibly. Zach Hughes responds at 2:51 p.m. and this message reads, just manager got well, I, LOL, texted work at off the night. And then a minute later, Zach Hughes sends a message that, and it reads, chat let's in little a bit.
And then
October 13th, 2021 at 2:52 p.m., John Mello sends Zach Hughes a message, and this, it reads, that did research on music, how go?
and that's October 13th, 2021.
Yes, sir.
And what did he respond?
At 2:53 p.m., the message reads, phone over, tell you good, the I'll.
And how do you interpret that?
Good, I'll tell you over the phone. And Mr. Mello responds with, cool.
Is that the last WhatsApp that was ever recovered?
Yes.
All right. And do you recall Investigator Perry's testimony about how long the conversation they had in the afternoon of the 13th?
I do.
How long was that?
I believe it was about 1 hour and 20 minutes.
All right, so this is the legend for this case. So this just kind of gives you an overview of the area. And so I have a couple addresses here. The green pin up there represents 200 Tyndall Avenue in Greenville. So they're in the center of the map. The blue pin represents 799 Indian Flats Trail in Slater, Marietta, South Carolina. That's kind of up there near the South Carolina, North Carolina border. The red pin represents 122 Canebrake Drive in Greer. And then the orange pin represents 12 Blake Street in Greenville. Every one of those red dots you see on the map represent a Verizon cell phone tower. Next one. So this is showing the activity here on Verizon telephone number 864-894-0020. And it's showing the activity on June 30th, 2021 at 1:24 a.m., so 1:24 in the morning. And this is showing activity in and around in Greenville, South Carolina. Now the Verizon records here, I'm relying on the phone to be able to make and receive phone calls to obtain a record. Later on in the report, we'll have some data records that kind of help fill in some gaps.
Real quick, Your Honor, so, I'm sorry, Agent Smith, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 1, and what is the date on State's Exhibit 1 up here?
Oh, the date on the top right there is Wednesday, June 2021. So June 30th, 2021.
All right, and so where was Zach Hughes' phone location on Wednesday, June 30th, 2021?
In the early morning, it was using a tower in the area of downtown Greenville. Next one. This slide 9, it's showing the activity between July 4th, 2021 and July 8th, 2021. And again, the phone during that time, these are all phone calls, and the phone during that time is using towers in and around Knoxville, Tennessee.
All right, so I'm going to show you States Exhibits 2. What is the date on States Exhibit 2?
That is July 8th, 2021.
And States Exhibit 158.
Is also July 8th, 2021.
And where are those mailed from?
Knoxville, Tennessee.
Both of those?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, July 8th, 2021, Zach Hughes' phone was located in and around Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yes, sir. All right, so this next slide, this is showing activity on October 11th between 9:44 a.m. and 11:18 a.m. These are data activations, so they're not phone calls, they're not text messages, they are all the other stuff that's going on a phone in the background. And so sometimes they generate a record, they tell me the cell phone tower that was being used, how long that session is, and so I'm able to demonstrate it here. And so here, between 9:44 and 11:18, you can see that phone's using towers just to the northeast and to the south of the 799 Indian Flats Trail address.
And what is that date?
That is October 11th, 2021.
So would that be consistent with Zach Hughes' phone being near 700 Indian Flats Trail?
Yes. All right, and then this next slide. So now we're showing the location data from the physical download of the phone, and so this is showing that same day, October 11th. There was a location data point right there at Indian Flats Trail between 10:06 a.m. and 10:54 a.m.
And what date is that?
That's October 11th. So it's the same date as the previous slide showing the cell site activations.
So that's 2021.
Yes, sir. Next one. So now this is October 12th, 11:14 a.m. to 12:18 p.m. Again, these are data activations, showing activations right there near Greenville Technical College, basically southeast of the 200 Tyndall Avenue address.
And that is October 12th.
Yes, sir. Next one. These are the Cellbrite. These are the location data hits off of the physical phone. Again, 10:25 a.m. to 12:23 a.m. on October 12th. And there are some specific activations showing the device near the Tyndall Avenue, specifically between 10:47 a.m. and 12:01 p.m. And then there's two others, one to the south and one to the north. Next one. This is October 12th. 2021 between 12:31 and 1:21 p.m. The first one, 12:31 to 1:07 p.m. is consistent with being in the area of Tyndall Avenue. And then the second one at 1:18 to 1:21 is consistent with being at 12 Blake Street in Greenville.
Were you ever made aware of the significance of 12 Blake Street?
I did. I understand that's Mr. Mello's address. Next one. So now the next one is, this is showing, again, October 12th between 1:59 p.m. and 2:34 p.m. So again, these are all data hits, and you can see the phone's using towers to the north of Greenville, not quite all the way to Marietta at that time. And then the next activation, voice call, is on October 14th, and the next activation is on October 14th.
Okay, say that again. So, in regards to voice data, you have it on October 12th.
I do.
And then when's the next voice call?
On October 14th.
And what is a voice call? What does that mean?
So that's an incoming or outgoing call.
Is that how you receive the location data?
It is. There is some data records on October 13th that I did not include in my presentation, but they are consistent with the activity we're getting ready to see. Next one. So this is October 12th, 6:56 p.m. till October 13th, 1:30 a.m., and showing the phone consistent with being in the area of Indian Flats Trail in Marietta.
So Zach Hughes' phone, this is October 12th.
This is.
All right. And what are the dates in which he is at the Indian Flats Trail?
So this is showing the evening of the 12th into the early morning of the 13th.
So what time is the last data point for, on the 13th?
1:30 a.m.
That's 1:30 in the morning.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And then this is the next activation. This is the next activity on that download report, and it's showing 2:42 p.m. is the first hit, which is showing in the area of 200 Tyndall Avenue in Greenville.
All right, so the last data point that you just had up there was 1:30 in the morning of October 13th, and where was that located?
In Marietta.
Marietta. And the next data point that you have for Zach Hughes' phone or his cell phone records is at what time?
So for this phone, it's at 2:42. I did have some activations on the data side earlier, just earlier about I think they were 2:34, and it was north near Furman University.
And that 2:42, would that be consistent at being a little north of downtown Greenville at 2:42?
So 2:42 would be consistent with being south of downtown Greenville.
South.
Yeah, 2:34 would, I believe it was 2:34. It was north of downtown Greenville. That's correct.
Okay.
Next one. And then this is showing the activity 9:07 p.m. to 4:07 a.m. on the 14th. So this is the night of the 13th going into the next day. There's activity, let's see here, 9:07 is that box up in the middle between 9:07 and 9:32. Then 9:43 to 11:13, the phone is over there to the east side of the airport. And then 11:25 p.m. on the 13th to 4:07 a.m. on the 14th, the phone is consistent with being in the area of Tyndall Avenue.
So that's the night of October 13th, 2021.
Yes, sir. Into the morning of the 14th. And next. And then these are the voice calls on the 14th. So this is 12:57 a.m. to 1:02 a.m. And you can see the phone is there over on the east side of Greenville, kind of near the airport.
So in reference to 5A handlebar, right handlebar Kona bike, in reference to 6A left handlebar of the Kona bike, did you compare that swab to your knowns in this particular case?
I did.
And what was your conclusions of that?
So for item 5A, which was a sample of swab from right handle brake of black Kona bicycle, my findings were the DNA obtained from item 5A is a mixture of a major male individual and at least one trace contributor. The major contributor matches the DNA of Zachary Hughes. A match between the DNA result of item 5A and the DNA of Zachary Hughes is approximately 2 septillion times more likely than a coincidental match to a random unrelated individual. Upon establishing Zachary Hughes as a contributor to this mixture based on the match statistics, Michael Manigault, Bradley Post, Alex Fields, and John Mello are excluded as contributors to the DNA obtained from item 5A. Due to limited data of the remaining alleles, there is no statistical support for an inclusion or exclusion between item 5A and Christina Parcell.
So what does that last part mean, inclusion or exclusion of Christina Parcell?
It basically means no conclusive determination can be made for this individual.
So now I'm going to refer you to your items 2A and 3A, 2A being the clippings of the right hand of Christina Parcell. Did you have the...
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't think
I was just going to ask him if he compared that to the known references.
So I had items 2A and 3A. 2A was a swab of tips of fingernail clippings from victim's right hand. Item 3A was swab of tips of fingernail clippings from victim's left hand. Item 3A PCR procedures for autosomal DNA analysis were not performed on item 3A due to the presence of large amounts of total DNA compared to male-specific Y chromosomal DNA. That is a case, basically, when we do our quant, or when we see how much DNA is there, we can see how much, in situations like this, we can see how much female DNA is present versus how much male DNA is present. And if it's too little, the next processes won't show up the male contributor because there's just too much female DNA. It's kind of like trying to hear your phone ring in a rock concert. It just gets overwhelmed. So at that point, we stopped with that sample.
So you're referring to the clippings of the left hand?
That's correct.
Okay. And so, and for reference, the items that you're dealing with are literally swabs. They're very tiny.
That's right.
All right. And so, did you have the occasion to test the clippings from Christina Parcell's right hand, which is your reference item 2A, to the knowns?
Yes, I did. So for item 5A, or I'm sorry, for item 2A, swab of tips of fingernail clippings from victim's right hand. My findings
Your
were...
Honor, and I'm going to object pursuant to Rule 403. It's our position this has no probative value based on their inability to properly establish chain pursuant to 981.
Your objection is noted for the record.
Good again. So
And
did
just for the record, I find that Rule 403 is extremely probative and substantially outweighs any unfair prejudice. But your objection is noted on the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I'll refer you back to clippings of the right hand 2A.
Yes.
And compared to our known references there.
So the DNA obtained from item 2A is a mixture of at least two individuals, a major female and a minor male. Assuming Christina Parcell is the major contributor to this mixture based on this being an intimate sample, a match between the minor DNA result of item 2A and the DNA of Zachary Hughes is approximately 825 million times more likely than a coincidental match to a random unrelated individual. Michael Manigault, Bradley Post, Alex Fields, and John Mello are excluded as contributors to the DNA obtained from item 2A.
So did you just tell this jury that Zachary Hughes' DNA is 825 million times more likely than a coincidental match to a random unrelated individual located under Christina Parcell's fingernails?
So what that stat means is it's called a likelihood ratio. And basically we're looking at two hypotheses as an explanation for the evidence profile that we find in the sample. So for every comparison, and we compared all the people to it, for every comparison, the first hypothesis is that this person's DNA is the best explanation for what we found on the evidence. And the other hypothesis is that it's somebody else in the random unrelated population. And so we're able to do statistics on this. And so it's kind of like sort of a seesaw effect. So when you have, for example, I read an inconclusive one recently, that's where it's kind of balanced, like it's not really tilting one way or another. If it's an exclusion, it means it's tilting toward someone in the random population is the better hypothesis to explain the evidence. And when it tilts the other way, which it did in this case, that's giving strong support for the hypothesis that that person's DNA is the best explanation for the evidence.